don't get to talk about him. I do.
I wasn't planning, obviously, to get divorced and have to separate.
Everybody looking at me like, find your own man. I was like, I got a man. Mauri Goins.
And I'm Dina Blair.
We're single moms.
Living life for the first time, just like our kids.
Real talk from the carpool to the crib.
A podcast about single motherhood,
Black womanhood,
and everything in between.
And maybe we can make your way in the pickup line a little more bearable. Welcome to the pickup line, where we keep it real from the carpool to the crib. And this week, Dina and I are going to talk about holiday hustle, spending time with co-parents during the holiday season. We wanted to get this episode in before it starts, so you guys don't have to stress out, and hopefully we can make it a little easier for you and your families.
Absolutely. So we have a few tips to go through from our personal experience as well, raising children in separate households from our father of our children or ex-husband. So I would say...
That's so funny. From the father of our children and the ex-husband. Okay. Yeah, okay, go ahead. But it's the truth. It is the truth.
Yeah,
it is the truth.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's the same. Anyway, So I would say for me, the biggest challenge, and maybe some of the parents out there feel this way, I had a really hard time thinking about being away from my children during the holidays. You know, so them going to be with their father during whatever holidays, because holidays are so, I love Thanksgiving, I love Christmas. It's a huge holiday in my family.
What made you uneasy about that?
Well, first off, it's number one, it wasn't how I pictured it to be, right? I wasn't planning, obviously, to get divorced and have to separate our family traditions from the holidays. That was one. And the girls were young, so I just wasn't quite, I just didn't feel comfortable knowing where they were just not knowing exactly where they were going to be during the holidays, who they were going to be around, and just really wanting to just be there with them. You know, I didn't always trust like the choices he maybe would have made at that time when they were younger.
Right.
And that could have been valid, or it could have just been my own, you know, experience. So that was tough.
But I suppose when you're married, nobody gets married, hopefully, to get divorced, and nobody thinks it through. Like when I grew up again, I'll tell you guys again, I've said this in a couple of episodes before. I grew up in a household with 5 stepbrothers and sisters and 4 of us. So it was 9 of us all together. My mom made it a point to keep everybody involved. So if it was Thanksgiving, everybody was welcome. Everybody could come over. Anybody could come over at any time, Christmas or things like that. But I remember the heartache when my parents got divorced, of me having to realize my Christmases and Thanksgiving weren't going to be the same. And that was traumatizing for me as a kid, because I looked forward to seeing everybody. And I looked forward to all my mom's friends coming over for Thanksgiving, and we dance in the kitchen, and just, you know, I missed all of that when they got divorced, because they never discussed the divorce with us. They just got divorced. And it was divorce. My mom was gone, and my life was forever changed. And I think that if a relationship is heading in that direction, I think that parents should discuss that with their children, just for preparation. I'm not saying tell them your business, right? But let the kids know where it's heading. Because for me, I was graduating from high school, about to go to college, and I was devastated. If you as parents know that the relationship is dissolving and heading into a different direction, I think that you should begin to have discussions with your kids, whether that's with a therapist, whether that's just you guys talking, not about one another, talking about how some relationships just aren't forever.
Yeah. Some
relationships don't last forever. And I think if the kids are getting prepared for a change, it helps them. Because for me, I was traumatized. I was the youngest of 9 kids, and I love my stepbrothers and sisters. I still love them to this day. But not having them at Thanksgiving dinner, not having them come by for Christmas, it was very difficult for me, because I was the youngest and they were some of my favorite people. So nobody explained to me that when the divorce came, we weren't going to do this anymore. We're not playing spades in the kitchen anymore. Like, we're not doing that. So,
yeah, you've touched on a few points we can kind of tease out. But the one thing I want to say and I've known you for years and years and years,
Mm-hmm.
is like you've taken that tradition and brought it to your family as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you've always been so welcoming to your ex's family and him to be a part of all of the holidays. Like
Yeah.
you include everyone in all of the holidays. You're never, you never exclude anyone. And so I think
No,
that's something you
no.
learned
I mean,
growing up.
even if you're in a bad situation with a family member, even if, he and I aren't seeing eye to eye on a particular subject or that day or that week, it doesn't matter. You're family.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids didn't get to pick and choose us. It is what it is. And so I'm sure there's times he doesn't like me. I'm sure there's times that he doesn't ever want to deal with me. But you have to understand, not dealing with me means not dealing with my kids. And that's where parents get it so wrong. Parents feel like it's about the other person.
Right.
It's not about the other person, whether you like them or love them or hate them. It's about what the kids see. Because what we need to understand as a society is a part of you is a part of him. And that's a part of the kids. Right? So there's always going to be some of Mauri in Mariah and some of their dad in Gracie and some of, they're all going to be a blend. So you have to take yourself, and I think I did learn this from my mother. You have to take the selfishness out of it. Right? I had a friend tell me the other day, she goes, "Girl, you are too forgiving." I am. And you've told me that too. You're better than I am.
You are.
I am in a lot of situations, but it's because those situations aren't about Mauri. Right? So people can say what they want to say about me. Love me, hate me, call me, whatever you want to call me. I'm a very good mother. And I try to put my kids' feelings ahead of mine. So when it's the holidays, if my kids don't want to go without me, I go.
Yeah, I think it's great for the kids too to actually see the parents together during the holidays. It does something, it makes them feel really good. It helps them feel secure. It helps them feel safe. And, unfortunately, there are not a lot of families that can do that. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if you're not together anymore, you're divorced, and you couldn't keep it together when you were married, how do you keep it together when you're no longer together? You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're able to go in and say, you know what, for the kids, let's make sure we plan what we're going to do for Thanksgiving, and you're going to be here. Let's plan what we're going to do for Christmas. But a lot of families, they don't have that dynamic. They're not able to do that because of their hurt. The mom is hurt, the dad is hurt. They're in pain because the family's no longer together. And so when that's the case, yeah, it would be ideal if people can put their feelings aside and do that. But a lot of times it's not the case. So
and I'm gonna speak to that to mothers and to fathers. And by no means am I'm not a psychologist. I am just a single mother doing my best out of God's grace to raise amazing little people. I think that what we all need to understand when we're parenting and when we have innocence in front of us, which children are innocent, is hurt people hurt people. Right? Hurt people hurt people. I said this before on the show. I don't have to tell you anything about your dad, and he doesn't have to tell you anything about me, because you're going to show your authentic self at some point. Right? It's like you gonna walk in acting like you're the richest person in the room. At some point, that's gonna run out if you ain't got no money. Like, right? It's like you're gonna show who you are. Mm-hmm. And it's the same way with a child and a parent. And if kids are pushing back on, I don't want to be there for Christmas, I don't want to be there for Thanksgiving. I mean, he barely did stuff for Christmas when he lived with us, because you have a lot of people that are married and they don't do nothing. Like the dad ain't maybe not wrapping gifts, or the mom didn't buy the presents or whatever, and resentment builds. But again, hurt people, and you've got to try your best for the sake of the children to keep that out. That would save that would save you so much money on attorney fees and guardian ad litems and all that. If you just try your best to say, you know what, hey, I may not want to be here. I know when I get there, they're going to all talk about me. Like, I know that. Like, right? I know they're probably talking about me now. I don't care. I don't care because it's not about me again. It's about the kids.
Right. And that's what we have to keep in mind is the goal is making sure the kids feel good about what's happening around the holidays. So I would say one of the ways to, if you're in a situation, and my situation was like that, it was very, I don't want to say volatile. That's probably too strong of a word, but we were not speaking at all after our divorce, but still being able to create a safe space, a secure place for the kids. So it's like you have to communicate, and so you have to figure out a way to communicate. So there might be, some mothers and fathers out there that are dealing with that, and so you have to figure out a way
just
to communicate.
So we're clear, there have been times me and their dad didn't speak at all, like at all, and that just made things more difficult because I can remember my kids saying, I shouldn't be doing this. These are things that adults should be doing. Like, right, basically, like, can y'all grow up and figure out how to work this out? Because I shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah. So if you think about kids when they're younger, let's just say kids are younger and we're looking at, Thanksgiving or Christmas or Easter or whatever holidays that you celebrate, figuring out ways to still it's all about the kids, make the kids feel good about the holidays. So what we did when girls were younger, a couple of times we did this, where Christmas, he'd come over to our house and we would open Christmas presents, together. Now, he didn't necessarily stay long or whatever. Like that wasn't the point. Was like he was there when they woke up and we were able to do Christmas, and his presence was there, and that's really what's important. So I think when the kids are younger, like toddlers and maybe early elementary school, if there's a way to celebrate the holiday together, then I would certainly encourage doing that because I think it has a huge impact, positive impact on the children.
And you also have, I understand the dynamic of parents living out of state, right? And there's costs that occur with that. Like it is expensive to live in a different state than your child. You've got to buy plane tickets. You've got to schedule dates on the calendar, or either you got to rent a car or use your car or figure in the driving time. I think that if you plan ahead, way ahead, right? And you get a schedule. I think that if you have a schedule and you say, hey, I'm going to be there for this holiday, that holiday. And you know what? I love Christmas. I'm not going to lie. I love Christmas. I'm okay if you're not there for Thanksgiving, but I love Christmas. And if you alternate, so maybe you get Christmas, I get Thanksgiving, they get Easter, or over the school holiday, because school's out so long, maybe one of you gets New Year's and one of you gets Christmas Day. And that way that if you plan these things out and you have clear communication, because two people that do not like each other, one thing that brings fireworks, not fireworks, firecrackers, right?
Bombs,
is if you don't get along and you can't communicate.
Oh, yeah.
And the time is messed up. If you say you're going to be there at 2:00, do not walk in at 6:45. If you say you're coming on the 4th, come on the 4th. Do not switch it around for you and not communicate that to the other parent, because the other parent could have scheduled a trip. She could have something to do, or he could have something to do. And that just brings more tension, which when you do the drop off, then we got to talk about the drop off.
Yeah.
That's already awkward, right? It's awkward. So it's like,
well, you have the dynamic of the person, the father, the mother, are, if they're in this situation, they're only concerned about themselves. They're not thinking about what the other person, not even the kids, they're not even thinking about what you may have going on that day or what you may have had to go through just to get them to, the airport or meeting at the gas station or whatever, the arrangement is. And so because that person may be so focused on themselves, they're not thinking like, well, this might be an inconvenience for, their mother or their father.
And you also have to understand, a lot of times I get it. You don't want your ex in your business. You don't need to know where I'm living. You don't need to know how I'm living.
Mm-hmm.
But people move on. So if the person has somebody else and that person's going to spend the holidays with them, I think you need to know that.
I think moving on is great.
I think,
definitely
yes,
move on.
But you need to know the person around your children.
Absolutely.
You need to know the person around your children. You need to know where your children are staying. You need to know, what they're doing. And my recommendation is just kind of keep the schedules the same. So if you have young kids and you put them to bed at 9 at home, try to put them to bed at the other parent's house around 9, right? Don't have one house everybody's just running wild and there's no rules and nobody's telling the kid what to do, and then one house that is extremely structured, because it throws the kids off balance. Like the kids are like, oh yeah, I was up till 2 a.m, Mom.
Yeah, but that's real life though. I mean, I feel like that's what happens in most families where the kids go to the other parents. It's like completely different. You've seen all the clips and things like that. It's like a completely different environment.
Yeah, but if kids are young, I agree with that. But if kids are young, structure is what makes children thrive, not chaos.
Agree.
And so if you're going to that house and you're eating crap and your stomach's upset and you're sick, also, I'm going to give you guys a really good tip. The children are going to tell. The children are going to tell. They're going to tell everything that happened when they're away from their, what do we call it? The custodial parent. They're going to tell. They're going to tell who they were with, where they went, when they went, what somebody said. If you're talking about the other person, the kids are going to tell you, I heard somebody talking about you, and guess what they said, Mommy? I mean, I almost promise you that.
Well, even if they don't tell, there's going to be a certain energy about them when they come back, and you're going to know.
Oh, my kids told.
Something happened. Like something was said or something. And the sad part is like it just affects the children. So just like be respectful of the person. At some point, you love this person.
You had a baby with
you had children with this person.
You had a child, exactly.
At some point, you love this person, and they may not be that person to you anymore, but they're still the mother or the father of your children.
I know a girl. She has 4 children. The father is the custodial parent of the child, and he's constantly telling her she's not a good mom. And I've tried to tell her before, it's not that he doesn't think that you're a good mom. First of all, he's trying to hurt you because he is the custodial parent of the kids, and you get tired. And he's tired, and he's angry, and he's mad, and he is all the things. But if you plan ahead for her to get the kids on spring break, if you plan ahead for her to get the kids on a fall break, there's enough breaks in school for you to get your kids, whether you live in state or out of state. There's enough breaks for you to have your kids on at least one holiday.
Yeah.
And when you're having these holidays, maybe one parent makes more money than the other parent. You've got to decide on who's buying the ticket. Are you splitting 50-50? What are we packing for the kids? What are the kids going to be doing while they're there? I mean, you have to talk to one another about all these things. And I think it's good to have a calendar year set, which we didn't because we were so unorganized. It was so unorganized. I mean, it was just like, yeah, I got the ticket. I mean, and I'm grateful because he bought the tickets, right? I mean, fortunately, I didn't have to worry about that. But there's so many people that do have to worry about that. And you need to know, if I'm buying plane tickets, am I buying Christmas gifts too? Because the world's expensive. Things cost money. Food costs money. It costs money to feed kids and feed them properly. So you need to know who's buying the Christmas gifts. Are we splitting them? How's that work?
And those are heavy conversations you're having with someone that you don't even like.
I had to take my glass down.
You know, and they don't like you. I mean, that's real.
I had to take my glass
especially
down.
If it's fresh. You know what I mean? And it doesn't. You know what I mean?
Told y'all,
it doesn't mean you want the best for that person.
I told y'all we would get a dog, and I'm like, what? Is that a real human? Is that an animal?
So how do you communicate with someone that you know you don't even really like right then and there? And what we would do is, and I would just do this to maintain my sanity, is I would just text. I know that seems really immature and and I thought it was immature to not be able to have a conversation. But at that point, it's evolved now, thankfully. But at that point, it was very fresh and everyone was still, very hurt over it all. And it just made more sense to text.
Girl, my kid's dad would be so mad at me. I would be texting through his madness. Like, I'm like, okay, you mad, you don't want to talk to me for 5 months, but I'm going to text you anyway. I'm going to text you and tell you, hey, Gracie hit her year high, or hey, this is what the kids are doing, or hey, headed to, I don't get an answer back. Mm-hmm. Baby ain't say nothing. But here's what you can't say. You can't say that I didn't tell you. Mm-hmm. You can't say that I didn't keep you in the loop over your kids. And I know a lot of people say, shoot, you better than me. I wouldn't do it. You get more bees with honey than you do vinegar.
Yeah.
And it is just something that I've always done. I've never tried to not let them go. I've never said, no, you can't see your grandmother on holiday. No, I never did that. Mm-hmm. If they didn't go, either they didn't want to go or there was something to it. But I've always tried to tell my kids, and I know they're going to be like, whatever, Mom. It's the right thing to do.
So you touched on earlier about people moving on. Mm-hmm. And then your kids, like knowing who your kids are being around. Mm-hmm. And I think for sure when they're younger, that was certainly a spot for me where I was like, I want to know who's going to be there, and I wasn't quite sure about the choices that he maybe was making, and that again could have been me just wanting to have more control over the situation. But as the kids get older, like, what are your thoughts on, let's say your ex, the father of your children, he's remarried or dating someone seriously, and he wants to bring that person to Thanksgiving dinner to you. And as another add to the question is, what if the kids are invited to go to that person's family?
Okay, that's a great question. And the reason why that's a great question is because I've never really met any of his exes. I've never been around them. Not saying that I wouldn't be their friends or I wouldn't like them. And again, I said this in another show, if y'all want to look, I'm not a jealous woman. Like, I don't really care about that. I have had my kids have been around one of his girlfriends when they got older, and it was their choice to go. I didn't go because I wasn't invited, right? So I wasn't invited. But I will say this. He and I did a good job when they were little on keeping our personal lives separated, right? We kept that separated. And I'm sure it was hard for him to explain to somebody he was dating. And it was hard for me to explain to somebody that I was dating. I told you that. I went to Thanksgiving and left my whole boyfriend. And when I got to the house, everybody looking at me like, find your own man. I was like, I got a man. But I'm here because I need to be here, because when you break up with a person and it's the holidays, you have to understand that that's still family. Like, I'm still really close to my brother-in-law, who's not my brother-in-law anymore. He's moved on. He has a whole nother wife. But every time he comes to see my niece, we all go over there and see him because he's still Uncle Jay. Right. So I wouldn't tell my kids not to. My daughter talks to her Uncle Kevin, and he's still my Uncle Kevin, right? He's still my brother. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to explain, but even though you're divorced and you're not together, it doesn't mean you have to not be friends with the people in the family. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to keep up with his nieces and nephews and talk to them. If they come across my mind, or we all just went to a wedding, right? And I'm sure everybody was like, why is she at the wedding? Well, you do what you have to do for your kids. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to treat the person bad just because you're there, because hopefully out of all this, you can get a friendship. Right? Yeah. It can be a friendship.
So your take on it is like, once you've been with this person, you've had children together or been married, now we're all family.
Because I grew up where my mother never excluded anybody.
Right.
I grew up where, I would have to tell my kids sometimes, you know what? Hey, I would ask the question, did you call your dad today? When's the last time you spoke to your dad? Mm-hmm. And as kids get older, they're like, shoot, when the last time he called me? Right? So, I mean, you got to be fair to the kids, but It's a question that needs to be asked. Even if he never speaks to me again, I'm going to still say to them, hey, have you spoken to your dad? Mm-hmm. Did you check on him? Is he okay? And I can't really explain other than I just always try to look at things like, because believe me, I can be hell on wheels. Like, right, I can turn into Nikki straight up from Indianapolis. Like, mm-hmm. I can just like, mm-hmm. right, especially when it comes to somebody hurting my kids. But when you get older and you realize the best Christmas gift in the world is your family.
Yeah. So you would be okay with having a whole blended situation where...
Probably at his house.
At whose house? The ex's house?
His house.
Okay.
I'm not sure that I want her at my house, but right. I could go to his house.
Right. Or yes. if you're dating someone too, mm-hmm. did you see it being like when the kids were younger? Well, I think now that the kids are older, it's a little bit different.
I asked one of my boyfriends if he wanted to come over. It was like around Thanksgiving, mm-hmm. and you know, their dad may be there, and he didn't come.
Yeah.
And he didn't come.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I say, you know, I would do it at his house is because his wife or his girlfriend already know how he live. Everybody ain't got to know how I'm living. Right? Because we're not comparing apples to oranges over here. Yeah. We're just raising kids.
So during the holidays, one of the main things is if the kids are younger, I think it's ideal to, just to kind of do a little recap, I think it's ideal to have one local place, like where the kids can come and like open Christmas gifts. Mm-hmm. And then maybe for Thanksgiving, if it's a good relationship where the father can come over and have, you know, Thanksgiving dinner, or the mom and the kids, or whatever the situation is, but everyone's together mm-hmm. for Thanksgiving, that would be ideal. For me, it's not that. It's mm-hmm. more like my daughters go with their dad for Thanksgiving mm-hmm. and they love it.
What you said that. You said they love that.
They love that. And the fact that they enjoy it makes my heart happy. Mm-hmm. You know, so I'm good with that now that they're older too.
And that's alternating the holidays, which I think you're good at. So mm-hmm. you have the kids on Christmas mm-hmm. and he has the kids on Thanksgiving.
Yep.
And if your parents that live in the same town, then maybe one gets them for breakfast that morning and one gets them for dessert that evening, or do the day 50-50. Like, here, you're opening your Christmas gifts at your mom's house in the morning, and then you're going to open the rest of your gifts at your dad's house later that evening. And then maybe let the kids spend the night with dad.
Yeah.
Right? Something like that is great too.
One of the things which is kind of to the point I'm going to make, one of the things I thought about once I was going through the divorce is like, how do I create new traditions for me mm-hmm. and my daughters, since they're not going to be with me for all the holidays. We're not all going to be together for all the holidays. So what are some traditions I can create that they get excited about, that it's, you know, for us? And I think mm-hmm. that they do the same thing, like, you know, going out of town for Thanksgiving and mm-hmm. spending time with that side of the family. So I would say, you know, whatever you can do as a parent is like, think of new traditions that you can create mm-hmm. with your kids.
And also you have to understand that the Bible says, train a child in the way in which he should go. And when kids get older, they have a will, and it's up for them to decide. Mm-hmm. You're no longer going to be able to say, oh no, you going. Like, okay, you're going. Or I think you really need to do this. I think that as kids get older, they have a choice. And I think a lot of parents feel like that choice has been shadowed by another parent, which is not true. I think that when kids even live in a home and their parents get divorced when they get older, they decide to pick and choose where they go. Mm-hmm. They decide if they're going to go to their dads. They decide if they're going to go to their moms. They decide if they want to go to both houses. And for the parent that they did not select, I just wish we could, you know, learn how to talk about that. Maybe ask your kids why you didn't pick me. And maybe listen to what they say. Or maybe ask your kids, you know, is there a reason you don't want to spend as much time with me? Not just a holiday, any day. Mm-hmm. And see what the kid says, right? Because I've always taken my kids on spring break. Every year I took my kids on spring break. Mm-hmm. When their dad was working, there were some times that he couldn't do that. Or I don't know that if I think about it, I don't know that he's ever taken them on a spring break. And when kids get to the point where they're older and they can choose who to go on spring break with, if they're choosing the mom, it's because they're kind of used to going with the mom, not necessarily because they don't love the dad. Or like, again, I know dads that raise kids and the kids don't want to go with the mom, right? And maybe the mom can't afford to get the kids. You got to work together to try to figure out how to make it happen. Like if you're driving and the drive is 8 hours, maybe meet the parent 4 hours into the drive, because I think it's healthy for all parties.
Yeah.
The custodial parent gets a break and the other parent gets to know their children.
I'm not driving 4 hours. I was like, I'm not being nowhere in the middle of nowhere. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, but then how are they gonna get there?
But it's the right thing to do. Like, obviously, but literally, my first.
I never had to drive 4 hours either. But that's real talk. That was a good one.
Like,
that was a good one. Yeah, but then
because that's absolutely on point with that. And I love, for people that don't have like a, custody or like a court order in place, which we just we make the plans ourselves. Just really being open and making that plan out.
How does that work when you say we make the plans ourselves?
Well, it just kind of fleshed itself out to where these are the holidays that, it's mostly Thanksgiving. They go with him. Not mostly. That's his day, his holiday, and then
does he get
Christmas
any other holidays? Does he get like summer breaks? Is it like? I remember when my kids were little, and this had nothing to do with the dad. My mother would literally keep my niece and my son for the whole summer. They would go to grandma's. They would go to the Y. They would go swimming. They would do everything, and I was like, "Whoo, Stella, got my groove back."
That's fine.
So, and then I could work, live, do whatever. So with you guys living or being divorced, do they go with their dad in the summer, or does he get any other holiday but Thanksgiving?
If he wanted other holidays, he could certainly, we would have that conversation for other holidays. But what he does do is he'll come up for different events, and we've evolved to this point. It's going to evolve. It's going to get better, especially if you kind of follow the tips that we're talking about based on our life experience. But it's evolved to that. So he'll come up for like games or plays or obviously graduations and things like that. So that's kind of the way that it's set with us.
Yeah. And by no means do I want anybody out there to think that me and their dad have the best co-parenting relationship ever. Like, we don't. But we do what we have to do for the kids. And I think that a lot of times people think that when the kids get older, you need to stop doing it. My advice to people, and this is just real talk, is when the kids get older, kids always remember how parents treated the other parent.
They do.
They always remember. I don't care if he and I don't ever talk. I probably will get a Happy Mother's Day or some flowers for Mother's Day.
That's a great point to bring up.
Or something to basically be like, I'm kind of thankful for, what you've done. I think that letting another parent know how you feel about another parent, and it's a positive way, helps the kid to go for the holidays.
Yeah.
It helps the kid to want to go see their other grandma for a week or two. I think because if they see you getting along, then the kids might get excited and be like, oh, shoot, I'm going to, Kentucky for, Thanksgiving, or I'm going to here, or, my kids got excited about going to their cousin's wedding.
Yeah.
And it's because they get to see everybody, and it's good to see everybody. It's refreshing. So I think that even when you're older, you need to keep into perspective that if you make it bad for that kid when they're younger, and you put a negative taste in their mouth when they're younger, it's going to stay. So they should see some positivity in both sides of the family.
Yeah, and they don't feel like they have to choose sides.
Right.
If he's still sending flowers on Mother's Day, that helps the kids feel like, oh, okay, like they're good. They're good. And that's that level of, security and stability that I think most kids, they need to have. And by him doing that, it shows like, okay, I recognize your mom.
Okay, so let's talk about the finances and all this.
Okay.
Because I think that
holiday finances. buying gifts, traveling, all that.
Because I think that a lot of anger and resentment comes from money.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's like, well,
on both ends.
Yes. Okay. I'm gonna give it two. I think anger and resentment come from two things: money and time. Because you could have an abundance of money and never spend time, or you could have no money and want to spend all the time. So how do you think it should work? Because I've never been married. How do you think that? I guess it doesn't matter whether I was married or not. If I think about that, how do you think that should happen over the holidays? Who pays for the plane tickets? How do we distribute the responsibilities?
So I'm in the mindset of I'm the custodial parent. If they're leaving to go, for example, out of town for Thanksgiving and they're flying, then that's his responsibility to get the tickets for them to go, because they're with me all of the time. And I basically handle all of the other, incidentals. Like my daughter has a biology project she's working on, and she wanted to buy a dehydrator, which...
Oh, like to dehydrate the vegetables and the fruits?
Yes, but she's dehydrating meat to test the fat content. Anyway, little things like that, right?
Okay, but I think that's cool. Like, I know that's weird.
It is cool.
But you can dehydrate fruit. Like, I'm thinking of cocktails.
I know, but I don't think it's...
Like, you can tell I don't have any little kids at home anymore. I'm thinking of cocktails.
Right, but nutritionally, it's not ideal to dehydrate like fruit and stuff like that. But anyway, that's a whole different...
Good in the drink.
It's cute, yes. But my point is, like, there are all those little incidentals, right? You have the dehydrator, or all the meat that you purchased that she's going to dehydrate, or, just little things. So I think that since they're with me most of the time and they're going to go see him, then he takes care of the travel arrangements as far as getting them there and getting them back home.
Okay. So do you discuss, like, so when they're traveling, what I used to do, and my kids didn't go a lot without me, but when they did go without me, I needed what time are they going?
Yes.
Who's picking them up from the airport? And, kids can't travel on flights without, what do you call it?
Unaccompanied minor.
Unaccompanied minor's pass, which means the ticket's going to be more. Or I've had times where he would fly in, grab them, and then leave. And that was okay too. But you need to know all those things. And somebody has to take care of all those things. And if you're not talking, you got to figure out a way to communicate that. Yeah. But at some point, it's like, and also...
I agree. At some point, it should be a conversation. But if you're not there, then you just you have to communicate somehow. So it can't be through the kids.
So, Mel Robbins put out this thing that said, if you're ignoring me and you're not talking to me and you just can't figure out how to talk to me and communicate with me, it's like being an 8-year-old. It's like, what on earth could make you that mad not to speak to me about how we're going to get our kids from one place to the other over the holiday? If you can't do that, then the kids are like, why am I going?
Sure. It's a maturity level, but also I think it's a level of hurt.
Hurt people.
And it's a level of hurt, and people, they have trouble communicating, when they're in pain. It's just like if you stub your foot, stub your foot and somebody's like, are you okay? You can't say you're okay because it hurts.
Yes. But here's the thing about that hurt. And this is me being me. When do we break the generational cycle of that?
Right.
We've got to break the generational cycle of that.
But you do that by...
Well, I'm trying.
But you do that by inviting everyone's welcome. You don't, it doesn't matter what's going on between you and him. He's welcome. You guys could not have talked for 6 months, and Thanksgiving's coming up. And if can come for Thanksgiving, you're like, come on,
Yes.
So you're doing that. And I think it has to be like a conscious decision to break it. And it just takes patience. It takes time. And sometimes it's just a text message to get to the point where you start having the conversation.
And what we don't want is, we don't want to raise a generation of traumatized children over their parents' relationship. Like, it's like, can we break the generational curse and the generational cycle of bad parenting and bad relationships? And we're here. Again, like I said, the gift at Christmas is family. The thing to be thankful for at Thanksgiving is family. And, what does it cost a man to gain the world but to lose his soul? And that soul starts in your kids. We don't want children walking around with traumatized stories on holidays. And I know my kids have some, right? I know every holiday that we have hasn't turned out perfect. Like, we might be together, but it didn't turn out perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, you get to the point where stop it.
But even if it's not perfect, as long as it's not obviously like going to like an abusive sort of situation, but as long as it's not perfect, like that's what family is,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, here comes
my
crazy so-and-so, you know what I mean? Like,
my
that's
mother-in-law,
part of family.
well, not my mother-in-law, but she is my mother-in-law because I've never been married. But my mother-in-law used to say, you know, you can't pick and choose your family.
Mm-hmm.
They are who they are. I mean, we don't get to pick them. Like, we can't give them back. Unfortunately, we can't give some of them back.
Mm-hmm.
And that I would be in my house sometimes thinking of something going on in our family, and I would be like, Ma, I don't get to pick them.
Yeah.
But I also have learned to set boundaries with them. And I think that sharing your kids for the holidays, as long as the boundaries are in place and the rules are established, it's a great thing.
So give an example of that, because I think that's really important for, you know, for men and women raising children separate from the person they have the children with, to understand, like, what does that look like when you say have a boundary?
Well, one boundary is for all the other people in the family. That whole family doesn't have to like that mom. I mean, it could be a messy divorce and nasty, and it could be over money or adultery or whatever. That should not be discussed in front of the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you like that parent or not, that is not a discussion in front of the kids.
Yeah.
Whether she cheated on you 9,000 times, took all your damn money, the kids should not be listening to your point of view on their parent.
Mm-hmm.
And I say this often, and I've said it before, I will say it again. Even if I'm dating somebody, even if it's my sisters, even if it's you don't get to talk about him. I do.
Right.
You don't get to, you can shake your head like you're doing now, but you don't get to talk about him. I do, because I'm venting. And I think that you don't need to do that in front of children. Like, if you don't get along with his sister or his daughter, who's now an adult, there should be nothing bad said about Dina in the presence of her children, because those are still her children's. That is a big boundary. I mean, that's rule number one. Don't break that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
You said that's good. You're
It
like,
is.
I didn't even think about that
Well,
shit.
no, that's good. But I mean, it's because some of that is like obvious, right?
Yeah.
It's obvious.
But
like,
it's not.
Right. But it's not.
But it's not.
It's not. Just
because
like,
you got ratchet men and ratchet women.
yeah. But just like you would think you could have a conversation with someone about what to do with the kids for the holidays, but you can't have a conversation. You have to send a text message and evolve to the point where you can have a real conversation, right? Some of this seems like obvious, but it's not. And when your children are with you, most of the time, it's up to you to set that stage, to
Exactly.
set those boundaries, to set the expectations. And sometimes, as the custodial parent, you're the one that has to make the initial call or send the initial text message, like, "Hey, the holidays are coming up. What are you thinking?"
I'll be texting. I might not get no response. I'm like, but you gonna know. Hey, this is coming up. Hey, don't forget that's coming up. Hey, this is happening. Mm-hmm. Hey, that's happening. There's a guy on social media that I think you and I sent each other the clip, and he's like, how you a co-parent if you ain't never took a kid to the doctor? Like, right? So how are you co-parenting if a kid can't spend a holiday with you? Right? You have to be conscious of these things. Like, you can't say I'm co-parenting and the kids ain't never had a day with you.
Right. I don't know where you live.
You might be paying child support, or you might be in the bloodline, but co-parenting means present.
Yeah.
That means being present. That means doing something. Mm-hmm. So I think about the stress that this is going to start causing people, and myself, you know, when the holidays come up, right? But I remember at a time, it was their dad's birthday, and my kids were going to his birthday party, and they were going to be with him or hang out with him. And my youngest didn't go, but my two oldest kids went. And at first it was awkward to me because I was like, they're going to be around his girlfriend. That was a little awkward. But then I was like, what the hell is going to happen at some point?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, she ain't going to kill him. They daddy's there. Right? Like, it's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And then I had another situation where my son was with them and she was saying negative things about me. That didn't end well.
No.
That did not end well. And I didn't go to him to address it. I went to her.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I addressed it with her, I told him, do not ever let another woman speak badly about me in front of my children. And those are boundaries that need to be set, right? I mean, I trust him. I have to trust his opinion of the woman he's dating, right? I've got to trust that he's going to put my kids in a good situation. So first I'm going to give my kids to God and pray the whole time they gone.
Yeah.
And they come back in one piece. And then I'm going to let them go see him. And if they don't go, even as they're grown adults, it's because they didn't want to go. It's not because I encouraged them not to go. And believe me, baby, when they were young, I was like, y'all want to go?
Oh, I know. I remember. He was like, you need a car seat? I got an extra car seat. I remember that.
I'm like, hey, I can send you the car seat, the pack and play.
Yeah.
What else do you need, right?
Know.
Because I just wanted that time. But I want mothers to know, new mothers to know, everybody to know, spending time with the opposite side of the family, especially at the holidays, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
You just have to put your own feelings and emotions aside to do it.
I know the holidays are coming up and Thanksgiving will be here around the corner. We're going to do some more conversations about this. Just know you're not alone and you're not the only one stressed out about how the holiday is going to be. And if that person has somebody new in their life and the kids are going to meet them for the first time or whatever, put your kids in God's hands and just know that everything's going to be okay. You have to go into it with a positive mindset. Thank you for tuning into this episode of The Pickup Line.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch us.
And listen to us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.